Oh.
And so this is part of the original post office.
Ooh.
And so the passbook savings was over here. The post office part was over there.
Passbook savings. That's where people would bring in their little, what, books?
Your books, and they put a stamp in.
Every time you put money in?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So they even had it for children when it was like 5 and 10 cents, and you put it in there.
Sweet.
And then when you filled it up, they gave you a savings bond.
Oh.
So this was a receipt from 1876 for $2,
Mm-hmm.
and it was for a post office box. And those were, you could get a big box or a little box, and I'm not sure which kind they got, but anyway.
Did you pay per month, or was that
A year.
A year.
It's now $84.
Oh yeah. Wow.
So they actually use this to put the mail in, so they could take it on their route. This is empty. I want you to feel how heavy it is.
That's pretty heavy.
And when you put mail in there, it's heavier.
Wow. They earned their pay.
They do. So every year they were a letter carrier. They gave them a star.
Wow.
And this was the old winter uniform.
Nice.
Yes.
So it looks like a really good fabric.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Like denim.
This is where they kept stamps and some of the receipts and all of that. Still
Wow.
working. This served.
And the clock?
The clock was original.
Wow. Seth Thomas.
Yeah.
Well, it's beautiful. I wonder if it lights up from the rear side. It looks almost like alabaster here.
I'm not sure because it's an old clock and it's.
Nice.
It wasn't. I don't know.
Is it clock anymore? Or is it?
No.
No.
No, it doesn't work. So it was a museum up until 1959. I mean, a post office up until 1959.
Okay.
And then they moved to a bigger post office.
Right.
I want to show you the terrazzo floors before I move on.
Terrazzo.
And the marble. Yeah,
So-
it's real.
Terrazzo that's concrete with stone in it,
Yeah.
and then you grind it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then all the marble that's around.
Wow.
Look at all the artwork on the columns and the clock.
Oh yeah.
And
Even
the dental molding.
wow. Dental
It's called dental because it looks like
teeth. Oh, that's sweet.
And so even the light fixtures are original to the building.
Wow. My dad used to tell me that the reason why the ceilings were so tall was so that the hot air could rise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and remember, no air conditioning
Right.
back then.
Exactly.
So these were the only windows that they had, and all of these opened just like that, so that they would circulate the air.
Airflow. Yeah.
So there's even carving above the doors here.
Wow. They didn't forget nothing.
They didn't.
And I guess it was a fallout shelter too.
From 1959 till 72, when LBJ's wife, Lady Bird, came and opened it as a museum, it was a fallout shelter.
Wow.
There's a big basement below this.
Yeah.
The original boiler is down there.
Nice.
And it had a field hospital and food and water because we thought that Russia was going to drop the nuclear bomb.
Right. Yeah. That was very real for a good while. I remember hiding underneath my desk.
Yes.
Like that was going to help us. We finally figured that out. There was, this desk is going to be toast. Yeah, but we'll be safe.
And we will be too. Yes,
It's a nuclear
exactly.
deterrent. So these are some of the stamps.
Yes, those are some unusual stamps that they were in the post office,
Wow.
and that different collectors have given to us.
Nice. And you said Lady Bird Johnson opened y'all as a.
Yes, Lady Bird Johnson came and opened it in 1976.
Wow.
And it took them 6 years to kind of get their money together and
Got
make it
it.
into a museum.
Because, I just found out that McKinney was the signer of the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, of the Texas.
Oh, that. Oh, okay.
Texas.
Whoopsie.
Yeah.
I didn't read
Texas.
it careful enough. I was like, really? That's pretty incredible. I was like, I don't remember his name even on there.
You remember when Texas
Yes. Yeah,
dropped
they-
out from the reunion. So he kind of originated it.
Yeah.
They gave him the quill, the pen. We don't have it. I wish we did.
Yeah.
But they gave him the pen because
That's cool.
he did so much work on it.
Wow, that's cool. And what's the story on this painting up here?
Which one?
The painting that's above the roof?
It was part of WPK. It was showing the early settlers that were coming to McKinney.
I thought so. WPA did some amazing work.
They did. Really did.
And Safeway, was it started here?
Yes, start here. So these were, this was the Olympic year. Most people know of Carly Patterson and Natasha Lukin.
Yep.
And so Mrs. Lukin's parents came from Russia when it was dissolving.
Okay.
And they built the gym that Carly Patterson worked out at. They did not have enough money to take her to daycare. And so she just hung around all the gymnasts. And she learned a lot while she was hanging around.
Sweet.
And particularly from her.
Yeah.
So, yes, they both learned.
That is
Mr.
really cool.
Murchison won a medal in 1920 and 24, and he got spinal meningitis the year after that. And paralyzed from the waist down.
Holy smokes.
He lived to be 80.
Yeah.
He went up to New Jersey. He made sports medals and trophies and that sort of thing when he was
Nice.
up there.
The Murchisons, I think they sponsored a scholarship I won at North Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they're the same
Same?
Murchisons.
Okay.
You're
Different.
Clint Murchison.
Okay, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I looked to see if he was part of it. I never could find that he was.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I wrote him thank you notes for a couple of years, so
Yeah.
yeah, I really appreciated that.
That's
It was
great.
cool.
Yeah, the Murchisons did a lot of good. He was an activist, civil rights activist, and when they had the strike, he was the one that led it.
Wow.
So that,
That's cool.
Kind of brought them to their knees, actually, when they realized they didn't have anybody play football.
Right?
So I don't know how much you are into sports, but this is all on your little iPad.
Yeah, that's cool.
Did we lose your iPad?
No. I love it.
This bottling company was in 1891, came to McKinney in 1891. In 1914, they got the Coca-Cola franchise.
Oh, wow.
And so they produced all of these things at the bottling plant. Orange Crush, Dr. Pepper, Texatone soda, Jersey cream soda, ginger ale, champagne cider. And then yesterday, I found for the first time a lady who knew what celery soda was. And I said, I have never heard of such a thing.
I
And
ain't
she
either.
I said, was it any good? And she said, no.
No, yeah. Probably thought it was good for you.
I'm sure it was, but anyway. And Budweiser, we all know. But the interesting thing is this was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And so Mr. Krause had an ice cream parlor during the summer, and they just brought out ceramic trays of ice cream, and everybody just took a spoon and ate it.
Wow. I love it. Would they have piled it up that high?
Were they what?
Would they pile it up this high? I mean, that's
Well, I
a
wasn't there, but
it's a small mountain of.
assuming.
That'd be like heaven for me. Ice cream nut.
Do you like ice cream? This is the old Coca-Cola drink. And so you would put your money in here and turn it
Huh?
and bring up a Coke. We don't have any in there, but we
Right.
decided it would be a good idea to put one in
Yeah, that would be cool. I wonder. No, why did it turn?
because it has this.
Yeah, but
Just so it would bring it up here so you could only get one instead of getting two or three.
okay. So as they had to refill it every time that this would get
Around it, yes.
right, and they'd lift this up with the key.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And put the,
And they put the recycled bottles underneath?
yes.
Because they recycled everything then. I love
2
that.
cents a bottle.
Yeah.
Wish they would do it now.
Oh, yeah. When I was a kid and figured out how much we wasted,
Oh, yeah.
it just drove me nuts sometimes. I was like, we waste so much stuff.
We do. Did you see that thing on, it's been quite a while now, but on David Muir about the island that had all the trash in it, that we're sending our trash over to some of the islands?
No, I'm not
It was
surprised.
awful. You should see it.
What are these?
Those are coins that they used to tell the iceman how much ice they wanted, whether it was 50 pounds, 25 pounds, or 100 pounds.
Ooh.
They also had these plaques that they stuck in the window,
Oh, wow.
and so he could see.
How much ice do I need? And then they charge accordingly.
They charged accordingly, and this is the ice tongs that they would put in the ice.
Yeah.
And they had these black leather capes on the back.
Huh.
They would put the ice down. If you wanted 50 pounds or 100 pounds, they put it on their back. And then they just walked into your kitchen and put it in the ice box.
Wow.
So,
There's some strong men.
Yes, it did. So they got their ice from up north.
Yeah.
The lakes.
Freeze
And they
over.
would cut it up. Yeah.
And they'd get it down in boxcars and put it in. They'd line the walls with sawdust, is what I was told.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when they got here, all the ice houses had to be built at a 45-degree angle.
Why?
And because, well, one, it made it easier to slide the box of ice into it.
Okay.
But the main reason was because it would melt on the outside and not all the way through. And so that kept it solid.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. it is.
Wow.
Southland Ice Company later became 7-Eleven.
No way. What? 7-Eleven started from an ice machine?
From Southland Ice Company.
No wonder they have ices. That's great.
Yes.
Well, that's
yes.
cool. There it is. 7-Eleven, the Southland Ice Company acquired McKinney Ice House in 1927. Their totem retail ice stores would become the predecessor to the modern convenience store, renamed 7-Eleven, because they were open 7 to 11.
Right.
Right? Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, that's cool. You're a great tour guide. This is good. Wow. I've heard that the mules that would draw the trolleys, the kids of the neighborhood would become friends with them.
I'm sure they would. This is part of the bottling company.
Nice.
Well, you didn't waste any time.
Yeah, if I don't do it, I'll forget.
You know me.
Are these from the local high school?
Yes, from McKinney High School.
Cool.
And so do you notice that this one has a D on it?
I do.
Okay, because we had a black high school, and it was called Dowdy High
Uh-huh.
School. And he was, of course, the principal.
Okay.
And then, of course, when integration came in, they took the people and integrated them into the schools.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Leonard Evans was the very first teacher to be integrated.
Nice.
And he was a football coach
Uh-huh.
and taught mathematics and history.
Okay.
And he also had won the first black state championship
Wow.
for football.
Wow.
And so, of course, and I went to a lecture when he was still alive
Mm-hmm.
that he gave, and he said it was very traumatic when all of that was going on, that they
Yep.
had protesters,
Yep.
they had the Ku Klux Klan
Yep.
out, they had the whole bit. And he said, I had no, excuse me, I had no idea what to expect when I drove up.
Yep.
So he had his 20-year-old son,
Uh-huh.
and he said, I want you to drive up to the door, let me out, and then proceed on without looking back.
Right.
And so his son said yes, and I said, if he were a 20-year-old, he wasn't going to pay any attention anyway.
Right.
But he said they drove up, And there's a big welcome sign and coffee and donuts for everybody.
That's sweet.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be able to tell that story.
Indeed. Yeah. I saw there was a building called Lovejoy downtown, and I asked about it, and they said, well, I reckon it's somebody named Lovejoy. And isn't that a great name?
Yes. And they have a school named Lovejoy. All of these educators have schools named after them. That is something McKinney does. They name all their schools after educators. And so she was a great educator. And there's a high school over in Frisco, not Frisco.
Called Lovejoy.
Lucas, yeah.
Neat.
Lucas, called Lovejoy.
It's a highly unusual name.
Yes.
I'd love to know the history behind it, the etymology, how they got Lovejoy. Did somebody say, well, would you like a last name? I was like, yes, I'd like Lovejoy, please. Yeah, I had a very wonderful landlady I rented a room from in college, and we had an alarm system. You know, she's gone now, but it was so sweet. She said, now, Robert, we have an alarm system on the house, and if you set the alarm and you accidentally forget a book or something, you come back in and it goes off, they're going to call. And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, and when they do, they'll ask for a password, and the password is love. And she said it just like that. So I was like, oh, Miss Johnson, that's wonderful. So one day I did. I forgot a book. I ran in. Whoop, 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 whoop. So I waited for the call, and the guy says, hello, we have an alarm at your location. Do you know the password? And I said, it's love. Just like that. And he bawled out laughing. He says, I've been waiting for years to hear that. He says, and you did it just perfect. She is the sweetest. I said, she is. Yeah, I love that lady. She was wonderful. She was about as Southern as they come. Yeah.
Oh, I love stories like that.
Oh, me too.
So this was the original, the bison was their original mascot for McKinney. This is an old teacher's book, and it had the daily times, you know, how many hours they were there, their grades, the date, all of those things.
Wow. They had
Be
such
entered by hand.
great penmanship. They don't do that no more.
They don't do that anymore, you're right.
Look at that E on Emily. Isn't that gorgeous? Wow.
They call that calligraphy now.
Yep.
I think they just called it handwriting back during those days.
Indeed. Made it into an art form.
This was an invitation from 1896 to the high school graduation.
Wow.
And it was at the Opera House. And the Opera House, I don't know if you are familiar with downtown
Not
McKinney.
yet. Not yet.
Okay, well, it's where Rick's Chop House is now.
Oh, wow. Trinity Chop House. High culture. That's nice. I like it. And that's a beautiful ring.
Isn't that pretty? It was from that time.
Yeah. They knew how to design stuff back then. It's got little sapphires on the side.
Yeah.
I worked at the Dallas Museum of Art, became a docent.
Really?
I got to do the Cartier show, and oh my goodness, did they have some designs in
Oh,
there?
I bet they did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Oh,
fun.
that's something. Well, then I'm sorry you got me as a docent because I've just.
You're wonderful. No, you're wonderful. This is it. That's what they told us. You just got to be personable.
Well, good. Well, these are all other educators that are around. This man's family came in 2 weeks ago. They had a family reunion here.
Cool.
And he's my age. And he said, this was his grandfather. And I said, well, tell me about your grandfather. And he said, he taught for 52 years. He never missed a day of school. And his daughters were born on Labor Day and Thanksgiving.
Huh, that's
And
cool.
so he said, what I most remember about him is we would say, Grandpa, show us your finger, show us your finger. And I said, so what was wrong with his finger? And he said, during 1925, there was a tornado that came through McKinney, and he was at the school, and he had his hand in the door, and he was trying to get all the kids in the door, you know, in the cafeteria.
Sure, for safety.
And they shut the door. And when they did, it cut off his finger.
Oh, dear
And
gosh.
so he said, all I can remember is going over to his house and saying, show us your finger, show
Yeah.
us your finger.
That's cool. They knew it was a sacrifice for safety. That's cool. That's a beautiful structure.
Yes, they just made this to publicize the schools.
That's cool.
And they own the school desk, of course.
Oh, yes. I like the fact that the back of your desk was the front of another kid's.
Yes, yes.
And I guess this is where the inkwell would go. And you dip the little girl's pigtails in there.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
You've
sure.
seen Anne of Green Gables?
Yes.
I love it.
That was cute.
One of the best.
So these are different industries that were
Mm-hmm.
in McKinney. Steffi's Jiffy Dog was quite the family place to go.
Wow.
And instead of cornmeal, they dipped this in cake batter.
Huh.
And the cake batter had cinnamon in it, and that accounts for its kind of very brown color.
Yeah, and they made their own bags, it looks like.
And read this.
I live with fear and danger every day, but sometimes I take her. Phil Smith's Cafe, that's great. Woo!
So this was kind of the good old boys place here in
Yes,
McKinney.
indeed.
And it started in '56, and he just quit business about 2 years ago because he was on 380,
Right.
and all the land around him had become too valuable. So he sold and went to Van Alstyne.
Good.
And his son runs the one in Van Alstyne now.
That's cool.
So tamales, which you're familiar with, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Those are some of the best things on the planet.
So this was from Bill Smith's Cafe.
Neat. And that's his sign or a reproduction of it?
Yes. No, that is the sign. That's the,
That is it. Wow, that's cool. Glad they kept it.
yeah. So all of these were businesses that were in McKinney.
Wow. The Friendly Five, shoes for men. I wonder if Friendly Five were referred to 5 days of the week?
I have no idea.
Probably 5 men that went in as a co-op.
Probably.
Ambulance and funeral home. If we can't save you, we'll take you where you need to go. That's cool. That's like,
All of these were, do you remember these?
I do, barely. We
Okay.
had some in our little junk drawer that Mom had from
Way
our
back.
Windsor days, Windsor, Missouri, where I'm from. But Grandma, now she had those,
Yeah.
and she'd
And-
save them,
and
and
those-
we'd
yeah.
help her lick them and stick them in.
And you got all kinds of goodies with these.
Yep.
They had all kinds of things. And you know what this is.
That is a crab apple.
Okay. Sometimes called an horse apple, and sometimes it's known for its wood.
Yeah?
The bodark tree, and this is pronounced bodark
Uh-huh.
in Texas. But the
Bodark.
real name is
Bodark.
B-O-I-S. It's a French word. B-O-I-S.
Mm-hmm.
Capital D/ARC. But when you come to Texas, it's pronounced bodark.
Yeah. We Texans have a way with things, don't we? I love
So-
it. You can't eat those though, right?
Can't
There's
eat
nothing
them.
you can
No,
do with them.
Nothing you can do. The only thing I saw them do was a craft show.
Yeah.
Where some lady had sectioned it off,
Uh-huh.
dried them,
Uh-huh.
and sprayed them, and made flowers. They do make very pretty flowers.
Well, that's cool.
Dried
We
flowers.
used to play baseball with them. Only got one
But
hit
what
per.
it's really known for is its wood. The wood is like concrete once it dries, after
Okay.
you cut it and it dries. It's very hard to cut. Wow. I had 3 trees in my own yard and had them cut down because they were nuisance. And it took them like 2 or 3 of those big blades
Yep.
to cut those things down.
Cheapers.
And it cost a fortune to do it, by the
Wow.
way. But this wood lasts forever.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons that people were able to build things and they lasted. And so if a foundation was made of bodark wood,
You're fine.
you can still find it today.
Wow.
And so of course, a lot of those fences have been torn down with all
Right.
the construction, but they were actually made out of bodark wood. And it's still around. And the historic homes, most of them are built out of bodark.
Cool. I was like these. We had some of these, the ones with little caps on them.
Yeah.
Those
What
are
were the
cool.
caps?
It would just cover your pencil lead, so that if you put it in your purse and you're digging for it, that's what Mom said. So you're
Okay,
digging for
so it didn't
you
make a
wouldn't,
mess.
yeah, and it wouldn't break off, and you had a usable pencil.
So what really made McKinney was the train coming through. And the train came in 1872.
Uh-huh.
And it provided for a lot of businesses opening here. And so the Blurton House opened near the train.
Uh-huh.
Beds were 25 cents to 50 cents. And so, but this was in just like a long room,
Right.
full of beds,
Yeah.
you know. And so you got to sleep with everybody else in that long room.
Wow.
The meals were 35 cents.
Wow.
So we have, with the train came a saloon.
Uh-huh.
And it's most noted for the fact that Frank James, brother of Jesse James, was arrested there.
Oh.
Here in McKinney and kept in jail here. And he had hit a man in the head with a spittoon, and then he just sat down and waited for the sheriff to come and get him.
Huh.
And the reason he did was because if he left, they would string him up and hang him. And
Please know the law.
and so he said he thought he would just sit and wait, spend a few days in jail and be out.
Yes, yeah. Besides, you got a square meal.
That's right.
Took care of him, gave him his own bed.
The Palace Barbershop
Uh-huh.
is still in business here at
Yeah.
Tennessee Street.
I saw it. Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, well, Bruce Lester is from McKinney, and he spent 75 years shining shoes.
Wow.
And he opened that, and some of his family still owns it today.
Sweet.
Yeah. So, you know, and we also had tourist courts. I don't know if you remember tourist courts or not. There's a picture of one.
No.
But after the automobile came into play, people would travel from, you know, like
Right.
from Denton to Dallas or wherever.
Sure.
And if it was an overnight trip, they would stay in a tourist court, which was, you know, it had rooms and a bed, and most of them had a little kitchen
Sweet.
of some sort. And as children, I remember we took vacations around, and we would always stop at the tourist courts.
Cool.
And after my mother cleaned the potty, then we'd all get,
Yeah.
you know, but she was very, very particular about her tennis court.
Of course.
Yes.
Got a
So
pre-clean. What were these used for?
those are our shear sheep.
Oh, shear sheeping. Okay. And then this is the McKinney ice, light, and coal. So you could get your ice and your coal and your lighting. That's
Yes.
pretty cool. Wow. Isn't that cool? This is great. Thank you.
Okay, so the White Billows flour, actually, you know where the flour mill is?
Yes.
Over here where all the flour
Uh-huh.
people are painted on them.
Yeah. Cool.
And of course, we have the cotton mill further down too.